How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are doing amazing today. So wiring is all done on the truck. We're still waiting for the exhaust, the intercooler piping, all that good stuff to show up, so we can't do that yet. Also, I decided I am going to do a body lift, just a 1-inch body lift, give me a lot more room around this motor, a lot more clearance between the tandem pump and those heater core lines. They are very close, and it is clearing right now, but I figure once it's running and you drive it and the motor torques and moves, it's probably gonna hit. So I bought a body lift. We're gonna do a 1-inch body lift, and I kind of want to wait to do all my radiator hoses. Obviously, the intercooler piping is gonna be a little bit different as well because it's on the core support, and the motor is gonna be lower after I lift the body up. So I want to wait to do all that stuff. So I think what we're gonna do today is pull the motor back out. We can powder coat all these mounts we made for the motor mounts, the intercooler mounts, the condenser mounts, all that stuff. We can powder coat all that good stuff, get that ready to go. And I got my Nordlock washers in for the flywheel adapter, so we can get the whole adapter plate 100%, get the clutch in, everything, and set it back in. And once we get that body lift, we'll be ready to go to build everything else. So that's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna pull the motor out and tidy up all that stuff. So I think I'll leave the whole harness in right now. I'm just gonna pull it out from here, disconnect this, and just basically pull this out, lay it over. But all this harness, I'm not gonna loom yet. I wanna get this thing running like I said. So we're going to pull this thing out, pull the turbo off, obviously, get this thing ready, get the radiator out, intercooler out, all these mounts here. I'm gonna powder coat the main motor mounts. I haven't coated yet, so I wanna powder coat those as well. So let's get to it, get this motor out. All right, we got the plate off. What I'm going to do is get this crank adapter on. There's a couple different ways you can do studs, and the reason I'm going to do mine a certain way is because there's not much of a lip from the stud to this center section here. So sometimes if there's a good step there, you could torque the stud into this crank, but because there's not much of a step there, I don't trust putting any sort of torque on that. So what I think I'm going to do is do some Loctite on the crank side. You will have to get in here with a Q-tip and clean the oil out. These go straight through into the bottom end. There's no wall in here. This is straight through the crank, so oil will come out of here if you were to dump it out. But you clean all the threads up, make sure there's no oil in the threads. We're gonna double nut these to get the studs in, but I'm not gonna tighten it that much. I'm gonna just get it like snug, and I'll use the Loctite to hold the stud in there. And then once we torque the nut with the lock washer, that's going to keep the stud from moving. Just like if you've ever done ARP head studs, you just go finger tight on the stud, and then you use the nut for all the torque. So we're going to use Loctite on the stud. I don't think I'll use any on the nut just because we do have the Nordlock washer. And if you go to take this off and you have Loctite on the nut and the stud starts backing out, you're going to be in trouble. You don't have much room underneath in between that little gap there. where the nut rides. So you don't want to put any Loctite on the nut, just because if you don't want that stud to start backing out into this adapter if you ever take this crank adapter off. So that's what we're doing. Let's get this thing ready, get the threads cleaned up, get these studs installed. And what we're going to use to torque that is, it's going to be a little tricky. Hopefully it's going to work. Wherever it went, we got a little crow's foot here. So hopefully that is going to work. It is pretty tight, so we're going to have to use an extension here and just barely get that torque down. So I think what we're going to do for torque is 42 foot-pounds. I'll have to look it up again. I believe on their instructions they say 24 for these nuts. They also gave me these higher grade nuts, so they said torque it higher with these gold plated nuts. So let's get after it, get this thing installed, then we can get the rest of the adapter back on with Loctite and all torqued together. All right, we are torqued on. As you could imagine, it's a little bit tricky to get this thing on and torqued, but I think we got it, the crow's foot worked out. Obviously, that doesn't grip on super tight. It wasn't really rounding them off, but it was slipping a little bit, you could tell. I went 40 foot-pounds, so that should be plenty tight, especially with these Nordlock washers. Those things are amazingly well at holding bolts in place. So now we can get the adapter plate back on. I'm going to Loctite all the bolts on there, get that torqued, and then we can throw the clutch and flywheel on. Alright guys, this is the clutch we are running. So this is a South Bend Stage 2 Endurance. Supposed to be a very good clutch. I have used a South Bend's in my Jetta and I've had really good luck with it. So this is kind of a different disc here. We have an aggressive side right here that's going to give you a lot of holding power. And then this side is more like a factory style disc to give the drivability. So it's supposed to hold like 400 some foot-pounds, so we'll see how it does. So we got to clean up the surface on the bottom side here of the pressure plate, clean up the flywheel, and we can get this thing bolted on. There it is, we got the clutch installed, good to go. So now let's start powder coating stuff. This is everything we're gonna be doing. So we got the motor mounts, that little tranny mount that we had to jack up the tranny with, all the intercooler brackets, AC brackets, all that good stuff. We're gonna sandblast all this, get it powder coated. Sandblasting should go pretty quick because most of it's bare. This is the only thing really with paint. This is the N75 valve mount and the little bottle mount. You can see I cut the end off because it was hitting the turbo, so I figured might as well just recoat that while we're at it. That'll take a couple minutes anyway, so not a big deal. Let's get the stuff sandblasted and coated. All right, we got the gun loaded up. We got one rack of parts in the oven for the preheat. So I was able to fit everything on 2 racks. We got all the bigger stuff here. So we're gonna let that preheat for 10-15 minutes, get it warmed up, bring it out, let it cool off, spray it, throw it back in for, I believe, don't quote me, I believe 12 minutes at 400 degrees. And of course, we are using the world's best powder coat prismatic powders. Go check them out, link in description. Go see everything they have to offer with all the powder coating supplies, Cerakote, trim coat, headlight restoration kits, all that good stuff. Link down below. Go check them out. All right, we got everything coated. Turned out really good. There's the mounts there, and the rest is over here. Looking good. So one thing I forgot I wanted to do, and I wanted to powder coat, is I need to build a mount. I got this little power steering reservoir, the same one I actually have on that truck. It just fits so good. The ports are the same size, so I figured I might as well do that again. So I want to mount this somewhere, probably something like that. So I got to take this mount, weld some stuff on it, and I'll probably just come up here, bolt it on here, drop it down, and weld it to that existing mount. And I think that should be plenty strong enough. So let's fix that up. We'll sandblast that and coat that real quick while we still have everything out. Well, that's it, guys. Got everything powder coated, looking amazing. We should have our body lift here in a few days. We can get that on. That's really the last thing I want to do before I start building all the intercooler piping, exhaust, all that stuff, because it is going to change a little bit with building that stuff. So I want to get the body lift on before we tackle all that. And guys, go check out Prismatic Powders if you're looking for any powder coat, Cerakote, all that good stuff. They got an amazing selection. Go check them out. Link down in the description. Well, that's it, guys. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.